And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What's up, RBLR Nation? Hope everyone's doing well. Everyone's having a good week, good night, good day, good morning, whenever you're listening to us. It's been a bit of a dull week, the past week for NFL news in general, but especially Bucs. But we still got some stuff to talk about. The NFL draft is, it's a long process to kind of get it all unpacked and unraveled. So we'll continue talking about that, talk some Bucs undrafted free agents, talk to other teams in the NFC South, because, despite what our talks may be about, there are other teams in the NFL. So, we're definitely going to talk about the division rivals for the Bucs. But before we go any further, I'd like to introduce my wonderful, beautiful co-host. Start with Musab Tariq. How are you, Musab? Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? Doing well, usual. Happy to be here as always, with the boys. But let's see what's going on. Let's see what we have going on tonight. We got a whole interesting off season going on right now. That's what I'm thinking right now is, how is this off season gonna play out? For us and the rest of our division rivals, and for the rest of the league, we still got some, moves, I guess, that should be made. But staying optimistic. So I'll leave it at that. Zach, what about you?
Man, I'm just happy to be back. It's been a little while with the boys starting to play football and going to practices. It's weird being a sideline dad. So it's been a crazy few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, your kids' football, and now you're talking about the NFL.
Exactly.
Football for Mr. Zach Blaine.
It's fun. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hell yeah, man. Let's get right into it. We're just gonna start out with probably the most interesting and most delicate, or not delicate, but the most in-depth part of this show. Definitely the NFC South's draft, because we talked about the Bucs last week. We covered their draft and how they did. The various picks that they made, but it was a big draft for all these other teams in the NFC South too, because much like the Bucs, they're kind of in a weird spot. The Saints are kind of in a not really rebuilding, but they're not really good enough to really compete for anything important. The Falcons are kind of rebuilding too. They're always doing that. The Panthers, Bryce Young, so it's a lot to talk about. So we'll give out grades. We'll talk about big surprises, but first of all, let's start with the grade. We'll go team by team, and we'll start with the Falcons. We'll start with them. Musab, how do you feel like the Falcons draft went? If you had to give it a grade, what would it be?
Yeah, man. I'll probably say I'm gonna give it a C plus. Just because I think they've been going at it, with the whole first pick with Robinson, and you're looking at a little dynamic duo, 2 stars, with Wingo and Bryce Young at quarterback. Oh, well, I mean that's what Panthers actually. I'm sorry, what that.
Algier.
Yeah, Algier. Yeah, sorry. So for me, I'm gonna give him I'm still gonna give him C plus, but for me, it's just like nothing really stood out, other than obviously maybe I guess that first round pick, Bijan Robinson, but we'll see how it goes. When it comes to the draft, I also want to I don't want to yap my mouth too much, no matter what team it is, and including our team. I'll tell you that, Carter and Zach, just because the way you play college football is way different the way you play NFL. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm interested is to see is, how people like Bijan Robinson, or, even their, other second first round pick, Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse, offensive lineman, how they adjust. You know what I'm saying? I'm still gonna, I'm still hard on C plus. I don't think anything really stands out immediately for me, so that's why I'm going C plus. But Zach, Carter, maybe y'all thinking different.
Zach, you're a Bijan Robinson fan, so I'm sure you have more excited.
Yeah, I mean, I feel way different. I think that between them and Carolina, I think they had two of the best drafts, definitely in our division. I'm going to be honest. I know it's crazy. I think that Carolina is going to be a little bit scary, but we'll talk about them later. I'm giving Atlanta a B plus A minus right at that line. I know that Bijan Robinson, we just got him, they already have 1,000-yard running back, which is even more scary to me because they have that ability to run whoever they want. And then you look at their third-round pick, Zach Harrison, out of Ohio State. I think he's a really good DN. And in the 7th round, they got DeMarco Helms at safety. I just think that they could be very good with their free agent signings as well.
Yeah, I thought that Atlanta had a really interesting draft, for better or for worse. I'd probably give them a C, just because when you like Zach mentioned, when you have 1,000-yard rusher and you have so many other holes and so many other missing pieces, you don't want to necessarily double down on that. I know they run the ball a lot. The Falcons ran the ball more than probably any other team in the NFL last year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do remember that being it's a heavy part of their offense, especially with Desmond Ridder as quarterback. But I don't think that the solution was to draft a running back at 8 overall when you already have 1,000-yard rusher. I'm giving it a C, but I also understand that Robinson is a really talented back. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, C from me. The rest of the draft was fine. It was kind of like the Bucs draft, nothing really to write home about. But they did manage to get an Alabama safety in the 7th round, so that's always kind of fun.
I also feel like we're putting too much weight on the fact that Bijan Robinson plays running back. Like, I know that he said it, and I've brought it up. Like, they drafted a difference maker. I think that I understand that it's 2 running backs, but I think those are 2 running backs who could both have very good seasons together, almost like a better version of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard.
Right. I feel you. There are plenty of successful teams in the NFL have 2 pretty good running backs, but I would argue that not very many successful teams in the NFL have, a running back that they spent a top 10 pick on, if any. I mean, the Giants have Saquon, but that's really about it. And I don't know that I'd call the Giants a successful NFL team quite
Not
yet.
Not yet.
So it's kind of tough. We'll see how it all plays out. If he loves to line up in the slot, or if he maybe becomes more of a dynamic wide receiver option, then maybe you feel differently. But even then, it's still the Atlanta Falcons spending 3 first-round picks over the past 3 years on skill positions, which I think might be even more egregious than drafting a running back in the 1st round, just because, skill positions are fun. They're fancy. They get fans. They get clicks. They get lots of people talking, but they haven't they just haven't done anything with them. So it's kind of tough, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I go the opposite way of you. I like the skill positions in the 1st round, and I think that's the wild part with it, is that it could just be a how you view it. Like, with you viewing it as like skill positions you could get later on, I don't think that that's the wrong opinion. I just like I'm more flashy with it, I guess I should say.
Right. I mean, different ways to build teams, but you look at the successful teams like Philly and the 49ers, and they spend a lot of picks on the defensive line and the offensive line. But anyways, we've spent enough time talking about the Falcons. The Dirty Birds don't deserve that much attention. Respect. So let's move on to the Panthers. They had the splashiest move of the draft, really, trading up to the 1st round, or 1st overall, to pick up Bryce Young. Slam dunk, easy decision. If you make a trade like that to give up as much as they did, then you do it for Bryce Young. So I'm not even going to talk about that. The rest of their draft was pretty solid. I love the Jonathan Mingo pick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. I'm going to give the Panthers an A-. I think they have a really fun team that they're putting together out there. And especially since they already have kind of I don't want to say elite offensive line. That might be overselling it, but they have a really good offensive line. So they're going to, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, those are definitely up in the air. I'm with you. In this case, skill positions, yes, they need some, but it's still, they still did a great job building in this draft. They've done a great job building in the last few drafts. So for that reason, I'm going to go A-. Musab, how about you? How do you feel about the Panthers draft class?
Yeah, sure thing. When it comes to the Panthers, I saw nothing special from them on the offensive side. on the defensive side, it was mediocre, and they had some stoppages or whatever. I can't really, just pull it out from my brain. But I'll tell you this: I'm not optimistic that it will succeed in this division or overall. I think that Bryce Young still has a lot of adjustments to make just because he's new in the league. But maybe he's different, maybe he's different. But then again, I think most quarterbacks are not just going to, quickly adjust to the league. So that's where I'm at right now. Even with Wingo at wide receiver, I wish him all the best, but I don't see them coming out with all the best.
All right. So what's your official grade on?
Grade for them, with draft picks, I'm going to put a B minus. I'll put a B minus. They got Bryce Young. I wish him all the best, but there's just something about, adjusting to the NFL as the quarterback that's just way different than it is when you're playing college football. You know what I'm saying?
For
You're
sure.
going to a whole different organization, and you got a whole different breed of kind of individuals coming after you. So for that reason, I'll see, whatever, I'm rooting for the dog, I'm always rooting for all these kind of guys. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you this, man, not because I live in Boston, because Mac Jones got drafted to the Patriots, and I rooted for him because he waited his time behind Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts, and he's still balled out. So I'm always rooting for the underdogs. Believe me, I'm an underdog kind of guy, but I just don't see any success happening, honestly.
Wow. Fair enough.
If anything, I'll tell you this, Max, they'll do mediocre. Maybe a couple wins here and there, a couple losses, but that's about it. I'll tell you this, I'll put my lock in right now. They are not winning the division championship, and neither are the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
Wow. Happen. Wow. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, but, I don't even gamble, but I'll tell you this, it's not the Falcons or the Panthers. Okay, yes, they're improving, but they're still not him. You know what I'm saying? They're still not the division.
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot to like on both sides, but I'm with you. They still have a long ways to go. I don't know that I see either one of them winning the division either, but this draft was definitely a weird kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird mix with all these teams. But Zach, how about you? I think you might feel
A minus, a hard A minus. Right up there at an A. Bryce Young, like you said, there's really no reason to talk about him. He's should have been the number 1 overall pick. I know that there was issues with his size. I think that's kind of irrelevant in today's game. Jonathan Mingo was talked about by scouts as potentially the best wide receiver in this, like the best potential as a wide receiver in this draft class. I think getting him in the second round is huge. I know that a lot of wide receivers slipped this draft, which was kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. But to get a guy like Mingo in the second round is amazing. DJ Johnson, Chandler Zavala, and Jamie Robinson are all guys that I talked about on the show. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I should tell you guys now, I was actually drafting for the Carolina Panthers, not the Bucs, when I did all of our stuff.
Fair enough.
They even got Rajon Wright. So I just want to throw that out there. I think Carolina made insane improvements. I think that they are going to be very scary this season.
Yeah, and it all hinges upon, that first overall pick, Bryce Young. If he comes out and takes advantage of the opportunity to play behind a really good offensive line, if he can overcome the lack of weapons that he has, then they're going to be really, really good. But that's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, like Musab said, to put on a rookie quarterback. It's like Musab said, it's a tough adjustment. It's the hardest adjustment to make in the NFL. So, it's a lot, but we'll see. If anyone can do it out of this draft class at the quarterback position, I believe it's Bryce Young. But
I 100% agree with you.
He can do it because it's really hard. So we'll move on to the Saints, kind of the least exciting team in this division when it comes to the draft. They had a late first round pick because they traded theirs to the Eagles to get Chris Olave. So, I'm not going to say,
respect where respect is due.
For sure. Not going to totally, poo-poo on that. But, yeah, it was kind of an interesting draft for them. Zach, how did you feel about their draft? What grade would you give them?
I'd give them a C to C minus. Like, I don't feel like giving them a D or an F because some of these guys could turn out to be really good. I think Brian Brees, he's a guy that could be very, very good. I don't see any of their guys. Maybe Kendre Miller, their running back out of TCU. I could see him making an impact, but I don't see any of these guys making a huge impact right away for this team.
Yeah, I mean, the only one, like you said, Brees is a lot hinges on his health.
Exactly.
With a lot of injuries. So it's definitely difficult. I'm probably going to give him a C plus as well, just because I do like the Brees pick. I think he's a super talented player. And it's a risky pick, but it's also a really, really talented guy that could be a slam dunk at a position of really high need for them because they don't really have any interior defensive line.
Yeah, they lost them all.
Yeah, there was such it was the worst kept secret in the NFL. They were going to draft an interior defensive line with their first round pick. And then, they filled out the rest of their draft fine. They went quarterback in round 4, which I thought was kind of interesting. Another Fresno State guy to pair up with Derek Carr. So we'll see if that comes of anything or if it just something that happened, in the 4th round. That happens a lot. But yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara is a bit of a question mark at this point. So the 3rd round pick on a running back was necessary. I don't disagree with that. So yeah, that's, C plus. We'll see how it goes. This is all such a crapshoot. We're all
it really is.
We know what's going to happen, but a 7th round pick for the Saints could turn out to be, a god. So who the hell knows? But Musab, how about you? How do you feel about the Saints draft class and the grade?
Well, I'll tell you this, as Zach mentioned with Brian Brees from Clemson, that's the only kind of guy I'm really looking out for. I don't know, this NFC South division looking mad, kind of interesting. I'll tell you that. Oh, yeah. It's a fair game. I mean, they got some other decent picks out there as well, but I don't know. Overall, nothing that really stands out. You're looking at the 1st or 2nd round pick. I would probably say Brian Brees really stands out to me. But then again, I mean, how can someone like him adjust to the NFL, And if he adjusts, that's fine. You can ball out for all I care of Brian Brees, but I'll tell you this, man, if your team's still doing bad, you ain't making the playoffs, you know what I'm saying? But it's always been the Saints and Bucs. And I feel sorry for the Falcons and the Panthers fans, but this upcoming year it's going to be the same thing. Honestly. If we ain't one, we're going to be 2. If we ain't one, we're going to be 2. I'll tell you that. We might be 2 by a lot, but we're not going to be 3 or 4. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So you got Bucs or Saints as 1 or 2. I dig it. Kind of transitioning to that. But after this draft, everyone loves to talk about, this team had a really great draft class. Is there a favorite for the division that y'all have? Musab, it seems like Bucs Saints for you. Zach, do you have a favorite for the division?
I got it's a tie between Carolina and Atlanta. I don't get me wrong. I like the Bucs. I like the Bucs draft class. It's just very boring to me. Aside from the Trey Palmer pick, which I mentioned on TikTok, I think that pick could be very, very surprisingly good. But I don't know how I feel. Aside from our first 2 picks and Trey Palmer, I'm not sure how I feel about the rest of them.
Next time you come down to Florida, Zach, let me buy you a beer in honor of, Carolina or Atlanta not being first. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
But you know what? I'll take that.
I'll tell you that, man. Oh, yeah, man. It's not that I'll tell you this. I'm not even, whether you're a Saints fan or a Falcons fan or Panthers or Bucs fans, there's no reason to be an optimistic person, okay? Stay humble, but then again, someone does have to win the division. So I'm thinking Saints, Bucs, realistically. That's where I'm at right now. Saints, Bucs, Panthers, Falcons. But we'll see how it goes,
What about you, Carter? What's your,
with injuries, it could be a whole different ball game. Maybe the Panthers rise to the top. Who knows?
Well, he's already making excuses.
Well, I will say I'm not picking the Panthers or the Falcons to win the division. That's kind of nutty, but yeah, I'm honestly going Saints. I think that they've got the best shot. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got some veterans on the squad. But then again, they're old. They're really old, so they could also
Yeah.
get hurt and they could suffer a lot of injuries, or they could just have guys just fall off production-wise. So I think the Saints or the Panthers are going to be the 1 and 2. I think the Bucs will probably be 3. But it's still way too early. Who
See, mine is different because I was picking my favorite draft class. If I have to pick who I think wins the division, I think Atlanta got a lot of veteran help. I think that people are
spent a lot of money,
and people are forgetting that right now. Like, we're assuming that it's Desmond Ritter's job to lose. I feel like people need to remember that they have Taylor Heineke, who can be a very solid. I'm not gonna say good, but a very solid quarterback. And you pair it up with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson. I'm putting it Atlanta, Carolina, Bucs. I'm putting Saints last.
Wow. Okay. Hey, fair enough. It's still way too early. Free agency is still happening. There's still, some interesting veterans out there. But who is going to finish first in whatever you want to call the division is the RBLR shop. That was a horrible transition. My apologies.
I liked it.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you for lying. But still, regardless, definitely shop.rblrsports.com. Gotta visit that page for 10% off everything. They definitely had an amazing. That has an amazing draft class. They got an amazing selection. That might have been a better transition. But anyways, yeah, so definitely check it out. The promo code is Cannon, CANNONS, for 10% off everything on your order. Definitely check it out for any Bucs gear for the upcoming season, or Rays, Lightning, Rowdies. The Rowdies, Lightning, and Rays, they're awesome too. Got to support local teams and all that. So, yeah, that's our shameless shop plug for the episode. Now we are moving on to the Bucs. Finally, we've talked enough about those, jerks and the rest of the division. Let's talk about the Bucs. They had some undrafted free agents. A lot of interesting guys, and we're gonna kind of get into it because there's a little bit to talk about. The Bucs still have a lot of roster spots available, and they're not going to all be filled by veterans. They're going to be some undrafted free agents that play some meaningful time, for better or for worse. So we'll just get right into it. Who's y'all's favorite undrafted free agent if you had to pick one? It doesn't even have to be someone that you think is going to make the roster, just your personal favorite. Zach, we'll start with you. Who's your guy that you just love?
Legal troubles aside, Jeremy Banks.
Okay.
I think that, granted, I'm in Tennessee. He came from Tennessee. Like, there's no favoritism there. But he's a guy who's fast. He came into college as a running back, played freshman year as a running back, and then got into some legal troubles. So was dismissed from the team. But when he came back to the team, he took some reps at linebacker and led the team in I believe it was 2021 in tackles with 128 tackles. The dude is he's small for an inside linebacker, but I think what he lacks in size, he makes up for in tenacity. And I could just see, I am predicting he makes the team, and I could see him making an impact on special teams and earning at least a little bit of playing time, especially with guys like Devin White maybe not wanting to play.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, definitely has a pretty rough, it's tough.
This is all hoping that's behind him. Like, that's the key here. If that's not behind him, then he'll be out of the league before this year's over.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL, no one really cares. I mean, sports in general, but especially the NFL, no one really cares about that stuff as long as it's not continuing,
Exactly.
So it's kind of rough. It's a video and no one likes the videos. But it's we'll see. We'll see how it goes. He's definitely super talented on the football field. If he's able to get his mind together and get his act together, then yeah, he'd be an interesting one to watch for sure. But how about you, Musab? Do you have a favorite undrafted free agent that Bucs picked up?
Yes, I do. I don't have too much to elaborate on him, but I think it's time. I think it's time to get that running back, Sean Tucker. Okay, because we're looking at Tampa Bay had one of the worst NFL rushing seasons this past year. I'll tell you that. All right. We'll see what goes on with playoff Lenny, regular season Lenny, aka if he's gonna be with us, Lenny.
He's already off the team now.
Yeah, so for that reason, I'm just thinking I think it's time, I think it's time to, provide, some more support to, to the rest of our depth, pieces and all that. And I mean, that's the guy that stands out to me the most. So I'm going on with, Sean Tucker from Syracuse.
All right. Yeah, I dig Sean Tucker too. I think he has a chance to maybe make the roster as the fourth running back. I mean, because the Bucs only have Edmonds, White, and Vaughn right now. Maybe they even move on from Vaughn and replace him with Tucker. That's certainly an interesting possibility to explore. But we'll see. Zach, how about you? How do you feel about Mr. Tucker? I mean, are you not sold on his?
Yeah, it's nothing against Tucker. Running back was one of the positions that I felt like we should have drafted because we have no solidified depth behind Rachaad White. And in all honesty, Rachaad White, he's kind of unproven. Like his rookie year last year, he was on a team that was the lowest in the NFL in rushing yards per attempt. So am I against Sean Tucker making the team? No, not at all. I hope that he's a good, solid running back. I think that we're going to sign a veteran running back. I'm not going to say who I think it'll be, but I think that we are going to sign a veteran running back at some point. He's going to make the team ahead of, let's say, an undrafted free agent. Right.
I mean, if an undrafted free agent's getting playing time, it's not usually a great sign.
Exactly.
But there are always undrafted free agent success stories, and maybe one of these guys will be one of them. But shifting more from our personal favorites.
Who's your favorite? We didn't get your favorite.
Fair enough. Mine is definitely Christian Izien. He had a ridiculous combine. He was one of the fastest players in the draft in general, but especially at the secondary position. He's a safety out of Rutgers. He ran a 4.38, which is just
insane.
Yeah, it's kind of disgusting. But he's kind of one of those guys that plays really out of control. He needs to hone it in a little bit. And he also played at Rutgers, didn't have a huge amount of production. So, there's he's an undrafted free agent for a reason. But, he certainly has the athletic ability. He would be an interesting guy to look out for special teams, especially with that speed. And, the Bucs only have three safeties on the roster, not their 6th round pick. So they need safeties. So he's one of my favorites, not only to just personally, but also just to make the roster. Sean Tucker was another guy that I looked at to maybe make the roster. I think he's got a pretty high probability to make it just as a 4th running back, maybe to replace.
But what about Cade Warner?
Cade Warner's kind of fun.
I'm not. He ran like a 4.72 as a wide receiver, man.
I
don't see him making it. I love the story, and he was very productive at Kansas State. But I think that's where he went, right? Kansas State, yeah.
Oh yeah, Kansas State. You're good.
I want him to do good because of the story. But I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got his old man's, hopefully his old man's football IQ and everything.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll see. He is kind of in a tough spot. Just because, like you mentioned, the lack of athletic ability, but crazier things have happened. Musab, how about you? Who's your favorite to make the roster? Not necessarily who you would want to make the roster, but just someone you see like, yeah, that'd probably be a good fit for the Bucs.
Ooh, that's tough, man. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know right now, Ashley. Just because I think we're going through a lot of different things right now. It's one thing if we're one of the hottest teams. We're coming back at it for the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? I think that we have to rebuild, and I think it's time to find the right gems, and they're not even hidden. Yeah, exactly. I knew you like that. You know what I'm saying? I purposely said the gems, but not hidden. They're not hidden. We have them, but it's time to pick the gems that are right for us. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Honestly, I'm not gonna elaborate more. That's about
Fair
it.
enough.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think as time goes on or as weeks go on, we will elaborate more on those who stand out. But we have a lot of holes to fill. We have a lot of depth to provide, and I'll leave it at that.
all right. Hey, you'll leave it at that. Absolutely. I mean, no answer is as good as any answer, because sometimes there's just not one. I mean, that's a really good point. Me and Zach and Musab, we can all sit up here and blabber away and pretend like we know who's going to stick on the team, who's going to have a good camp. But truth is, none of us know. None of us have the crystal ball. We're far from experts, and even the experts don't have a crystal ball. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's definitely a good point.
And I feel like we could have taken the easy way out there and been like, oh, the kicker from Arkansas. I don't know his name. I didn't care to learn his name, but he's the only kicker on the roster. So,
Right.
like,
Well,
realistically,
they have the Christian. What's his name? The guy they signed.
The guy that we got from was it McLaughlin?
Yeah, McLaughlin. That's what it is.
Yeah, McLaughlin. Yeah. Okay, I forgot about him. If I'm being honest with you, so maybe he doesn't make the team, but irrelevant. In my mind, I was like, oh, he's making the team. He's the only kicker. I completely forgot about the other guy we signed.
Right. Well, another guy to maybe look at as a potential guy to add on, just because the offensive line competition is so up in the air, is Chris Murray out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma seems to churn out a lot of really quality offensive.
Great linemen.
You can say what you want about their defense. Yeah, I get it. They gave up like a ridiculous amount of points to Tulane or something last year. But their offense is always really good, and a lot of it has to do with their offensive linemen. And he could be one of them. Maybe he's kind of more of a project guy. You stash him on the practice squad, let him maybe try to fill in for Jensen eventually. But that's very much down the road, very much hypotheticals and everything. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all we got for the undrafted free agents. But there was a bit of, not surprising, but just kind of another continuation of kind of an existing rumor. Some people have been linking Ezekiel Elliott to the Bucs again. I know Zach's getting excited because it's a skill position guy. It's a running back. I mean, he's just anticipating, eagerly trying to get on and talk about this. So Zach, the floor is yours. How do you feel about Ezekiel Elliott?
Hope to God, I am praying that Tampa brings in Ezekiel Elliott. Look, I know everyone on Twitter is against it. I think that that's silly. I think that he is a guy who has proven that he can get it done when healthy. I'll throw that caveat in there, when healthy. The issue is I don't think he wants to play backup, and I don't necessarily think that he only plays backup with Rachaad White. I think that there's going to be a good duo, like they would get equal playing time. I think where the issue lies with that, and I believe our running back coach is the one who's come up and talked to him about it, admitted to talking to him already and explained to him, like, hey, you need to realize that you're not going to get paid $12 million a year. You're going to be making $1 million a year, right. Which, like, I'll take $1 million a year right now. I don't care. I'll play for whatever team you want me to for $1 million a year. But I just feel like the issue is he is still wanting to get paid like a star running back, when in reality, at 27 years old, he's already got the most rushing attempts of an active NFL running back. And there's guys like Mark Ingram, who's 34?
Yeah.
So, like, he's got years on him and still is run the ball less. So I think that the Cowboys kind of killed his value with his usage rate. But I also think that he's still got some gas in the tank to get it done, especially at the goal line. So I feel like if we were to sign him, it would be a perfect duo with Rachaad White and him at running back for us.
For sure. So, Musab, how about you? Do you think of Ezekiel Elliott as kind of potential fill-in starter?
Oh, absolutely no. I don't want anything to do with Ezekiel Elliott. I'll be honest with you that I don't want no superstar. I think it's time for the Buccaneers to make a fresh start, and I don't want no superstar. Especially, I think this is going to be the same thing with Antonio Brown. And as Zach was talking about,
no way.
No, man, Ezekiel Elliott is not him, dude. Tony Pollard took his spot out of nowhere. All right, my buddy had Elliott and Pollard out of nowhere on his fantasy team. And he was like, you know what, man, I'm going to throw Pollard. And I was like, you know what, man,
Pollard would take 90% of the starting
The
running
guy,
backs.
yeah. Pollard ain't amazing. Hey, Pollard is not amazing either. But I'll tell you this, man. I don't want nothing to do with some superstar diva like Ezekiel Elliott. The same thing with Antonio Brown. I don't want nothing to do with any of these little NFL superstar divas. All right, I'm serious. All right.
I think
want
the
some hard worker.
difference is, though,
Man,
Antonio Brown had like mental stuff going on. Like, I understand Ezekiel Elliott seems like a bit of a diva, and I don't doubt that he is. Like, I'm not taking that away from you, what you're saying. But I think that we can't just assume that he's not a good teammate. You know what I mean? Like, he might be one of the best teammates. Not that I've heard anything to say either way or the other, but he could be a very good teammate and could just want money, which, like, I respect in a sense. But I think that comparing him to Antonio Brown is kind of unfair to him because Antonio Brown is a whole different.
Yeah. You know what? No.
Crazy.
You know what? No. Yeah, Zach, you're right. You know what? Yeah, I take that a little back. I think I'm a little too feisty. I just hate like I just hate these NFL superstars who pop up in my news feed and they're not even that relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like Antonio Brown, Ezekiel Elliott, but I think Ezekiel Elliott and Rachaad White could be a good pair, but as y'all mentioned, does he want that kind of? I don't think he wants to share that position, and I don't think he wants to be the backup, and that's the biggest issue. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tell you this: if he shows up on our team and he just balls out, then that's fine. I'm rooting for him. Believe me, I'm rooting for him, but I'm not that optimistic that he will. You know what I'm saying? I think I am more optimistic that he will work with Rachaad White, a little back and forth, but I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ezekiel, I don't know if I'll go quite the Antonio Brown level. But, he definitely comes with his own baggage. You know, he comes with his desire to get paid. He also has his own little litany of legal troubles. So, you know, there's still something there. I mean, I'm not going to say that he's not, you know, he's a perfect model stand-up citizen, real locker room presence. Like, no. Also,
does he have legal problems? I didn't know he had legal trouble.
He got suspended for 6 games for domestic violence.
No, you're right. Alleged.
Right, for sure. So anyways, regardless, he comes with his own baggage, for better or for worse, mostly for worse in this case. So yeah, it's definitely not just a slam dunk. Yeah, Zeke's definitely, you know, he's definitely going to be a stand-up guy and going to be a great running back for the Bucs. He's also old, like Zach said. He's got a lot of tread on his tires. You know, he's a 27, but he's an old 27. Like he's
like 34, 27. Like
right. He's got
he's
some,
end of his career old.
Yeah, he's got some miles,
which is crazy
for sure. So it's definitely a tough sell if he's asking for more than the veterans minimum. I don't think he's going to get it. But you know, he's not an awful situation. He's not an awful guy to maybe take a gamble on if you just want a more solidified starting back, someone with a little more experience, because he certainly brings that. He's been around the league for a while now. He ran for 1,000 yards. You know, he had his huge years in Dallas. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some upside there, but there's also some risk. So it would have to come with some reassurances and pretty much veteran minimum, no more.
Well, I have to ask, gentlemen. So you think that if we get Ezekiel Elliott, that he is more of a lockdown kind of starter running back? Just because I'm thinking, I don't know. Honestly, I just think that I don't think Rachaad White's amazing, but I really do think that he's going to fight for this position. I'm serious, you know.
For sure.
So that's why I'm just wondering. I mean, if this was to happen, do you think that there was going to be a little bit of a somewhat battle, or it's kind of just going to be like, you know, the coaching staff is going to be like, you know what, Elliott got the starting role, you know?
I think it's going to be very similar.
Yeah, I don't believe that. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to the Baker situation. I think there has to be assurances that he'll be given a very fair chance to win the starting position, because with Zeke, if he's going to take a veterans minimum, I think that if he's not the starter by week 1 or week 2, I think he asks for his release and tries to go elsewhere. that's kind of my only thing, is that he's only going to sign for the veterans minimum to a team if he knows that he's going to get the chance to get a lot of touches and get an opportunity to maybe try to get a bigger contract.
And I think that's what I kind of meant. I kind of take back the way I kind of compared him to Antonio Brown and him being a diva. But I think that Ezekiel Elliott knows what he's capable of doing, but he's not doing what he's capable of doing.
Right. Zach, how about you? How do you feel about it?
So I'm kind of on the same page. Like, I think that his base salary would be the vet minimum. I think he would get a very incentive-laden deal. And in order for him to meet those incentives, he'd have to get an adequate amount of playing time. I'm not going to say that he'll come in and be, he's our guy, he's the starter. But I see the team being a dual running back situation with him and Rachaad White. So when you look at it like who's the starter, I'm not looking at it the same way. I'm looking at it as the amount of touches, and I think that they would split it pretty evenly, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, Zach. So I mean, Zeke's definitely one of the bigger name free agents that the Bucs would target, and with their limited cap space, it's hard to project what other veterans, especially now that the Tom Brady experience is over, so that doesn't have that draw. But we're kind of wrapping up, come to the end of the episode. Thank y'all so much for listening in. I know we yap our mouths a lot, but without y'all, we wouldn't have an audience to yap to. So we'd just be talking shit for no reason. So we really appreciate y'all. If you liked what you heard, definitely check out, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on social media at RBLR Sports, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have TikTok now, as Zach mentioned earlier in the episode. So definitely take a look there. Thank you again for tuning in, and from me and my co-hosts, as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.